Welcome to the Adoption Side by Side podcast, because no one should have to walk the adoption journey alone. I'm Andrea.
And I'm Steph. We walk the journey together, and we want to walk it with you if you'll have us.
Well, on today's episode, we have two very special guests. We have Kathy and Haley, and they are birth mom advocates that work for Heart to Heart Adoptions. So Heart to Heart Adoptions was the agency that my husband and I used when we adopted our son. And Kathy was the birth mom advocate who flew out to meet us in Ohio. And she just really made that whole experience, I think, much more relaxed. We knew that we had a person we could go to for questions, and we just wanted to bring on these ladies today because I think that both for prospective adoptive families and for moms or families considering placing a child for adoption, that hospital interaction can seem stressful. There's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of variables, of course, because every situation is different. So we're going to just kind of talk through a few of those things today. So Haley and Kathy, welcome. How are you ladies today?
Hi, good.
Good, doing well.
Good. Do you want to start by talking about what led you to choose this kind of career path?
I'm Kathy. I studied child development at college, and I needed an internship to graduate. My best friend's mom works with the agency, so I was able to get an internship with Heart to Heart. And yeah, I continued working here. I've been here for about 4 years, a little over 4 years. I knew in college that I didn't want to work directly with children, but I wanted to work for children to help them. And so adoption has been perfect because I get to make a difference in these children's lives, and I get to hold the little babies in the hospitals. But yeah, so it really was the perfect career path for me.
And I'm Haley. I graduated in human development, so I had an internship with an international adoption agency, and then that's how I got connected with this company that does domestic adoption. So I always like to say it's the job that I didn't know that I was looking for, but I'm so glad that I found it. Because I knew that I wanted to do something in the social work area and something that you were able to be in a position to appreciate the value that people bring and hearing their stories. And so, yeah, I'm just glad for this job, and that human development is what led me to want to be here.
Yeah, awesome. And Haley, how long have you been with Heart to Heart?
I've been with Heart to Heart for a year and a half, so.
Okay. And do you want to share about what your roles with Heart to Heart entail?
Yeah, when I started with Heart to Heart, I worked mostly with in-state moms. So birth moms have the opportunity to come to Utah to stay, to live, to deliver. And so that, for the first couple of years, that was my priority, was these in-state moms. It's now shifting that I'm mostly working with out-of-state expectant mothers. And with that, I get to travel a little bit more often. I've been able to travel throughout the last 4 years a bit, but here lately I've been able to travel a bit more since I'm mostly working with out-of-state moms.
Nice.
And kind of similar, I started off in the same of working with the expecting mother and helping case manage them, working closely with the birth parents, and then now I've shifted over to the adoptive family side. So once families become active with our agency, I do an onboarding and then help them through the matching process, help connect birth moms with families where the preferences match and everything, and then just help guide the families through the process up until placement and just be their main contact and support.
So do you ladies do the initial intake paperwork as well, or does somebody do the intake and then you are in contact with the moms after
for
that?
Both sides of that, because I was going to ask what's the difference between what Kathy does with the birth moms to what's different with what Haley now is doing, but you guys kind of answered that. So is there a different person for each of those? Like, does one person handle birth moms and one person handles prospective parents' paperwork when they first come to the agency?
Yeah, when birth mom or an adoptive family reach out, and there's a front line. So they're on the front line that handle the paperwork and kind of help them through that process. And they're great. We have a really great frontline team on both sides. And once they complete the paperwork, that's on the birth mom side, that's when they're passed to me or to my other case managers here at the agency. Once their paperwork is complete, they turn into a client. And so that's when they're passed to us, and I start the process with them.
And being able to have that frontline support from both the birth parent side and the adoptive family side separately really helps us to be able to give adequate support on both ends of it. Both sides, everybody's able to be supported through this process because it's a lot. And so we definitely work together as a team and communicate a lot with it.
And you mentioned about how, Haley, you work with families, or not Haley, Kathy, sorry. You work with families that are out of state, like birth moms that are out of state. How do birth moms find Heart to Heart to work with you if they're not in your state?
Yeah, they just search adoption agencies near me. Yeah, and our agency hopefully pops up.
Okay.
And yeah, they reach out to the agency for more information, and that's when our frontline team contacts them.
And then Haley, same thing for you. Do you work with families that are out of state as well, or just in-state families for the adoptive parent side?
Yes, we work with families all over, so that just varies as well.
Okay.
So I know that for us, as when we were potential adoptive parents, we just really wondered what that hospital stay would look like. That can be, in some cases, the first time you're meeting with expectant mom or mom who's just given birth. Sometimes it's not, of course. Sometimes you've had an opportunity to build a connection with her, or maybe I believe Heart to Heart encouraged us to have dinner with her beforehand, if possible. That was not possible. She gave birth very quickly overnight, so we had to get on out there. But I feel like that can just be a nerve-wracking time on both sides. There's a lot of emotions there. So first, can you tell us if most hospitals from your experiences have provided a room for adoptive parents, or is it common adoptive parents need to find a hotel or an Airbnb nearby as they navigate those first days?
Yeah, here in Utah, the hospital that we use, they do not provide a room overnight.
Okay.
So you will need to find a hotel nearby. Out of state, it really depends on the hospital. Some hospitals, it's just a liability to have the family stay overnight since you're not a patient. But I've seen a lot of hospitals provide a room because they want the adoptive family to bond with the baby overnight. And it really is up to the birth mom if they want baby to go to the family or to the nursery or with them overnight. But if possible, we try to get a room at the hospital for the family.
Okay.
However, some hospitals just won't allow it, so they will need a hotel nearby.
Sure.
Or sometimes they might not have the availability, and a lot of times they don't know that until the day of. And so we work closely with the hospital social worker and everybody there just to kind of see, is this available? Would this be possible? And then follow the birth mom's lead with her wishes.
Yeah. I know we were both very blessed that we could do that. We were able to stay in the hospital, so we appreciated that, but
We were shocked we were able to stay, mostly because we thought our little one was going to be having a NICU stay and we wouldn't be able to stay. And when we got there, our caseworker was like, well, he's not in the NICU yet, so we're just going to go to a regular room they have for you. And we were like, what? There's a regular room for us? We're not ready for that. We thought we were going to sleep in a hotel for the next couple weeks. But yeah, that was very nice. And they gave us everything that birth families got. You know, we got the meals, all the amenities. And they treated us as such. So that was nice on our end that the hospital stepped up and did all of that for us.
From our end, and one of the reasons we're doing this podcast is because we kind of looked for examples of that, personal stories online, to help us see just what were some common experiences. And one that really stood out to me was a video. They shot like a documentary of a birth family and adoptive family who were willing to do that, have it filmed, and just the way they were able to pass baby back and forth while they both stayed in the hospital. And that was very beautiful. And that really kind of opened my eyes to what that could look like. What advice could you share for adoptive parents to help them show love and support of the baby's birth family during this hospital stay?
And I almost think part of the answer is in the question a little bit, in the fact of just making sure to show love and care for the birth parents that are there. Sometimes the birth mom might even have additional support from her family or friends. And so just having the focus be connection and building and recognizing that you're not only building a relationship with the child, but also with the birth mother as well. And so recognizing that everybody's nervous in this situation. The birth mom is nervous, the adoptive parents are nervous. So just letting your worries go aside, which is hard to do. It's easier said than done. But if your focus is on love and connection, then I think that's what can carry you through the whole experience.
Are there word choices or topics you feel like should not be used in discussion?
I think keeping it general, and like you said, if you're conscious and aware of your words, then that makes a difference of in itself of recognizing, okay, at this point, it's still her choice. It's still her child. Yeah, that's a good question. I'm trying to think what else.
And maybe that's something that's kind of organic based on the situation, but I just didn't know if you'd seen anything in your personal experiences that maybe would be a good guidelines for families.
A lot of times a conversation in the hospital is what the birth mom wants to be called. And so sometimes she's called tummy mommy, sometimes just mommy. Sometimes they want to be called aunt, and I don't love that, since they are still the baby's mother.
Sure.
But I feel like that does come up in the hospital quite a bit, is what the mom wants to be called to the child.
And having it be an open conversation too, I think it goes a long way of asking her those questions of what do you want to be referred to by? And sometimes she might not know the answer, but being able to ask her those questions in a non-invasive way goes the extra mile to show her that you care about her involvement in this child's life.
I know one thing that was stressed a lot to us was when you first enter the hospital room, acknowledge mom first, because so many people are focused on getting in and seeing that adorable face, and just to recognize, she's a person. She's not just a carrier of a baby. She's a person. And I know that was helpful to me. I had that mind. I was like, get in there, like just try to make a good connection, and I really appreciated that.
Focus on her. Yeah. And I think, and maybe you ladies can share on this, like our hospital stay was different from Andrea's. We did not meet birth mom. We have a semi-open adoption, but we did not meet her. So we didn't have those, what should I say, what shouldn't I say, thoughts leading into like on our plane. Like our full focus was when we get there, we're going to meet baby, and baby's going to be 100% our focus. Not that birth mom wasn't. Like I did ask the nurses, how is she doing? All those things, but ours was different since I wasn't going to have that,
like the face-to-face
with her to see that. Do you notice there's a difference in that respect? Like, do you guys see cases that way where it's kind of open or semi-open adoption, but the two parties don't meet face-to-face? So that makes it easier but harder at the same time, because I know there were pieces of it that I struggled with that even to today, there's things that I'm like, I would have been able to ask her that or say that to her face, or even in our communication, we communicate through a third party, so I don't ever get to speak with her. And there's a lot of times that I'm thinking and praying about her, and I just want to be able to send the message like Andrea is able to, that says, thinking about you, like, we love you, we hope you're doing well. And I could, but does that message get to her? All those things. So have you guys seen that side?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it really, each case is so different. And we leave it completely up to the birth moms, how much contact they want in the hospital. So I've seen a lot where they want a lot of time with the adoptive family, but I've seen a lot where they didn't want to see baby at all. I had a girl put headphones in while she delivered so that she didn't see or hear baby. She didn't see the family. But then they ended up having a pretty open relationship later on. So I've seen both sides. I have found it to be more healing, I think, when they do meet, when they do have that relationship. It's just better for all parties. However, it is completely up to the birth mom, and she knows what she can handle and what she needs at that time.
And recognizing too that can change over time. And so for then adoptive parents to just be open, or that openness to be gradual over time, so that if the birth mom ever does feel more comfortable with communication and everything with that the adoptive parents are ready to welcome her in.
That's good to know, because we had the flip side of that too. I think Bree mentioned that sometimes the birth mother over time needs less and closes off and all of that. So just that the adoptive parents, this is a forever thing, and we have to remember that, and remember that relationships change throughout time.
Yeah, we've seen that too, where they think they want this really open relationship, and then they just realize that they can't handle that, and like emotionally it's just hard. And hopefully later on they do want a more open relationship. We've seen that a lot too.
Yeah, they'll reach out a couple years later and want that connection and want to know how their child is doing, or on the flip side, the adoptive parents want to know how the birth mom is doing. So anything that we can do to help with that connection, we're always happy to.
So, on the other side, what encouragement can you offer expectant mothers who may be nervous about this time in the hospital and meeting the adoptive parents and family?
Yeah. When she is close to her due date, we do go over a hospital plan. And the first thing I tell them every time is any of this can change. We are making a plan so we know how to best support you. But day of, you might decide something completely different, and it is completely up to her. So we do kind of follow her lead. It really is how she wants things to go in the hospital. We just kind of follow her, and that's where the flexibility comes in. The adoptive families need to be flexible. Us too. When we're in the hospital, we need to be flexible with how she kind of wants things to go. So that, I think, right there is a big comfort to her, just that she is still in control of this, even though she's going through this really hard thing. Yeah. And so then in the hospital, I always tell them the families are nervous too. This is a big thing for them too. But yeah, just that she knows that she's supported. We are there for her. The family is there for her, and that we just want her to feel supported and loved, and just make sure things go the way she wants as she's comfortable.
And I was curious if you can tell us, have you found in your experience that most hospitals are kind and supportive of birth mothers? We asked that of our friend who interviewed, who is a birth mother herself, and her experience thankfully was positive. But I know, like, from my perspective, the hospital staff, when they talk to us, were really, applauding adoption and good for you. But I'm like, I hope the same is given to her. So has that been your experience for the most part?
Typically, yes. The hospital that we use here in Utah is great. We love the nurses. Yeah, we love the staff. They are very adoption friendly. Most of the time traveling, they are supportive. There have been some cases where they're not, and they do make it a little bit more difficult for the birth mom. I remember one where they were kind of pushing her to watch the parenting videos when she wasn't comfortable with that, when she didn't need to watch them, and they just weren't very understanding. So typically, yes, the hospitals are really great. It's typically great staff, supportive nurses, but we do run into some issues sometimes.
And a lot of times it could even just be that they haven't had many adoptions take place at their hospital. So it's just an educational opportunity for how to handle those situations in the future.
On the flip side, are there times that you've seen where hospitals aren't receptive to the adoptive parents? Like, we both had amazing situations with that, but has there ever been a time where they're not nice to the adoptive family? Not in the sense that they don't have room for them. We understand that, like, sometimes that's not possible, but just they're not maybe welcoming to them, or, don't want to let them into the hospital room with birth mom or whatever.
I think that's less common.
Okay.
I could see that happening, but less common. And if it does, it goes back to they're just unfamiliar with the dynamic and how to handle those situations. So if it does happen, in my opinion, it comes more from a place of uncomfortability versus hospital policies or whatnot. And every situation could be different.
Right. Yeah. Do you have any stories that you want to share, favorite stories on your time traveling to meet with, or in Utah, of course, meeting with these birth families or adoptive families?
Yeah, I mean, I have so many. Each case is so different. There have been so many situations where I just leave like, this is why I do what I do. I just love the people that I work with. One of my favorite things that come up quite often, and as you know, Andrea, is the coming up with the name and how there is some kind of connection, or they come up with it together. One example, I had a family that had a certain middle name in mind. It was one of the virgins. They were going to choose that name as the middle name. And when they learned the birth mom's middle name, it was associated with that virgin, so they changed it to that middle name. And in that situation, I was there 12 hours. That baby was born very quickly. We signed very quickly. Like, it was a very fast situation, but that one always sticks out because this connection of the middle name and yeah, they just chose the name together and it had a connection to the birth mom. Those are my favorite things that happen just because it just confirms that they were meant to be.
Yeah.
Birth mom and this adoptive family were meant to be, and to have that connection. I don't know. I always leave like, oh, that was the family for them. That was the baby for them. That was perfect.
Haley, do you have any stories that stand out, situations?
Yeah. I loved being in the hospital when I was a birth mom caseworker and just being there for those first moments with the adoptive family and the birth mom. Not everybody gets the experience of the adoptive family being in the room during the delivery, since that's based on the birth mom's comfort
Right.
level. But there was one specific time where the birth mom wanted the adoptive mom right there next to her, right as baby came out. And then I just remember they put baby on birth mom's chest and the adoptive mom was just right there. And they were both loving on baby and just having this tender moment together, and just that connection of knowing that baby is so loved by multiple people in that room. And even during leading up to that moment, the birth mom just kept saying, "This is why I chose you guys. I feel so good." So those moments in the hospital are so crucial in helping that birth mom have that confirmation that she's making the right choice and choosing the family and confidence in the family, because it is a lot on both sides. Trust and being able to just be all focused on the birth mom. I know it's for the adoptive families, it's kind of hard not to text family or call family in front of the birth mom, but to hold off on that so that you're in that moment with the birth mom, meeting her where she's at, acknowledging that it's a hard experience for her that she's going through as well in a grieving process. And so being able to meet her where she's at and comfort her and just love on her are the moments that always stick out to me. And
Kathy and I talked a little bit about this during the time that we were staying in the hospital. I think that a lot of adoptive families really dread this time because we've met them, we're here, we're waiting for however many hours by state law to pass before the mom can sign her rights. There's a lot of fear around that, fear of attachment. So I was curious, how do you help families? What advice could you give them to navigating those fears and those emotions? And if you have maybe an example of times that the birth mom has decided that she wants to parent, to raise the child herself, how do you help kind of navigate that situation since you're there working with both the bio family and the adoptive family?
it's a tough situation, and in the moment I think there's not much to say as far as, because at that point it's important to be in the moment with the adoptive family, to sit with them in that pain, in that sadness, in all those emotions that come. And so having a traveler there in person, or when they're here in Utah, sitting with the adoptive parents, if that's what if it goes through a disruption, or the birth mom sitting with her as she's processing her emotions, at that point it's just more of a listening and a counseling ear. And I think for adoptive parents too, it's helpful to think through and explore the different scenarios that could happen, so that no matter what does happen, you've already explored your emotions and thoughts to go there. It doesn't make it any easier, but being able to prepare and accept that in some situations, if there is a disruption, sometimes there may not be closure. And that's one of the hardest parts about it.
Sure.
But so in some ways you can't fully prepare for whatever situation happens, but being able to explore it beforehand helps a lot with that.
I think also having the mindset, and again, ours was different because just of the situation we had, but having that mindset that I get to love on this child for whatever the period may be, whether it is a disruption or we bring baby home to fully adopt. But in that, whatever the consent period is, it's the mindset of I'm loving on this child. This child is not mine. You know, even if you have custody, like 72 hours in Arizona. So for 3 days, we would have had baby and it could have been up in the air. So, and I think I read it in a book, not during our adoption process, but at one point saying that, like, you have to remember that you're loving on that child for whatever reason for that time period. And if birth mom or family decide to parent, you've loved that child for that time period for a specific reason. And now whatever the specific reason is, that child needs to be with bio family. So I think that helps. And now, granted, don't ask me how I would walk through that if I have to do that again, because we had a complete, like, when I got on the plane, I knew I was coming home with baby. Like, there was really no questions for us. That wasn't going to happen since it was a unique situation. But that is something I walked through before we even matched with that case, was that mindset of baby is not mine until consent has been signed. So I can obviously love the family and the birth mom, all of it, but until the consent has been signed, I'm just showing love like I would to my nieces, my nephews, my friends' kids, all of that. I think that helps with the mindset.
Yeah, I remember sitting in the hospital room waiting, and I'm talking to this little baby, and I was even careful with my word choice, even though he's an infant, like he's not understanding, but I remember just being like, hey, we're here to take care of you for a couple days, and then we're going to see what happens, okay? Let's get to know each other. I tried very hard, since I knew we would see her in person. I didn't know how much, but I knew I wanted to go in with the mindset of, I'm here to do what you need me to do. If you want baby to stay in our room, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. Like, we're here when you want to talk, if you don't want to talk at all. So I guess a lot of it's just your mindset.
Well, I was going to say, in being prepared, like, I know I read blogs and books, and we did the classes that prepared me for everything and anything. Because that's not something that anybody can just tell you, like, well, this is how it's going to be. Because just here, there's two different cases of what our hospital stay was like. Mine was completely different from Andrea's. So just preparing yourself with all the information, and ask the questions. Ask the caseworkers. If you have a consultant, ask the consultant, like, ask all of the questions so that you are prepared and ready for anything that could happen. Because like we've said, every single adoption and every single family is unique in their own way.
And that's what I always tell families too, that adoption is unpredictable. You'd think that after all the situations we see that we would be able to predict, but ultimately each situation is different. Every person is different. And so, like you guys were saying, to love not only on the baby, but love on the birth parents, and just having that compassion for them, I think also helps in the situation, and recognizing that they have the capability to make whatever decision is best for them. And then just love goes a long way in all of it. Doesn't make it any easier.
So can you now let us know what it looks like when birth mom goes into labor or thinks she is in labor, what it looks like on that end, how the ball starts rolling, and kind of what her side of hospital stay looks like, and then how's the adoptive family notified, and then what does their hospital stay or time period look like?
Yeah, when a birth mom is in labor, I always tell them, you can call me any time of day. My ringer is always on middle of the night. And actually last night we had a girl go into labor pretty late. So I'll just kind of walk you through how that happened. So she called me and said that she's having a lot of contractions. They're going to wait to go to the hospital, but then called and said that they were pretty severe. So I got them an Uber to the hospital, and immediately I text Haley so that she can let the adoptive family know, and I text our traveler that was planning to go. And when it's me, I am looking at flights. I'm seeing how quick I can get there. I'm booking my car. Yeah, and so since it wasn't me traveling last night, Sharon, she is great. She's one of our best travelers. She was ready to go. She was on a flight in an hour.
Wow.
I think.
Oh, man.
Yeah. We moved very quickly.
Yeah, she ended up just going to the airport, and she figured, if anything, you can cancel the flight if she ends up not getting admitted. So she was there and then got the green light and hopped on the flight.
Do you guys just like keep a bag packed
know,
for
like
this stuff?
Like a go bag in the car?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, we're always ready. We move very quickly because we want the birth mom, the birth family to feel support as soon and as quick as possible. And so I call Haley, we call the traveler, we get there quickly. We also, if possible, we make contact with the hospital. When it's the middle of the night, it's hard to get in touch with the social worker, but as soon as we get to the hospital or as soon as we can, we make contact with the hospital. And then we just stay in touch with the birth mom, make sure she's doing okay as she can. If she can send us updates, we know that she's going through a lot. So if we don't get those updates, that's okay. And then, we get to the hospital. We go straight to the hospital. Once we land, we get our car, we go straight to the hospital so we can make contact with the birth family, typically the birth mom. And we ask if she needs anything on our way. And then hopefully we're there before she has baby. a lot of times we're not. And so, yeah, we make it there. We make her feel supported. We bring a meal. Hopefully she's doing okay. We just kind of check in with her.
If she doesn't have family with her, are you able to be there to be her support system if she wants that? Like, can you stay in the hospital room with her? And if she wants you and maybe adoptive family's not going to get there in time or whatever, like, are you able to be in the delivery room with her and like all of that as well?
Oh, yeah. If we make it, we'll be there with her as she needs. I've been in so many deliveries, and it's one of my favorite parts of my job is seeing the babies be born. It's such a good support to have someone from our agency there with her, especially if she doesn't have that family support.
And just being able to hear her story and things that she's been through and help her in a different capacity than maybe what she's used to in her past is, it's memorable.
Yeah,
Right.
For sure.
So then you got the call, mom was going into labor, you called Haley. So Haley, what do you then do on your side of things for the adoptive families?
Yeah, so I try to give adoptive families as much heads up as possible. So I let them know that she was feeling some strong contractions. She'll most likely go in, but just kind of waiting till the contractions get closer. Then once she got to the hospital, I let them know. Once she got admitted, called them, make sure that they were up to date, answered their questions, and then just help them make a plan to travel out as soon as possible. Because it's always better to get there sooner rather than later, just to be there for that experience, to be there for the birth mom if she does or doesn't want them there, but at least she knows that, hey, they're making this a priority. And the birth moms recognize that it's hard for adoptive families to travel all of a sudden. And so, but they do appreciate families being there. So as much of a heads up and transparency is kind of how we go about things as far as traveling.
And of course, when they have an induction, that is a totally different process. As you said, we could do a dinner the night before. We have a set hospital plan that the family can be there, we can be there, but it's all about that flexibility. If they do go into labor, babies come when they want to come.
Right.
So we work quickly and just in support of the birth mom.
Yeah, it's kind of nice too that even if they don't do an induction and are able to get that dinner the night before, then we still offered them, do you want to have a meal with the family while you're in the hospital? People still have that experience.
Yeah.
And anything to foster that connection, that's what we're always going for. And if the birth mom doesn't want contact with the family, if they're open to reading a message from the family, just those little things so that that relationship can continue to build.
Yeah, absolutely. And can we talk about too, in terms of post-placement when baby leaves with adoptive parents, and further communication is really dictated by birth mom. She sets her boundaries on what she can and cannot handle, and we follow her lead. But can you talk about things adoptive parents can do in that follow-up contact to be encouraging to her, especially in those early months where she may be experiencing some postpartum? Heart to Heart actually has an app they use that they encourage families to connect that way. That way, families aren't necessarily exchanging personal info right away. They could choose to do that later if they want. But also, I love it because I know it goes to an app that she can choose to look at. If she's not in a place to look at it, it's not popping up on her phone. It's not like pictures just popping up. So I appreciated that. So all that to say, what advice do you have for those kind of post-contact messages, or they could be phone calls or visits?
Yeah, just a little on Hearts Connect. That's the app that we at Heart to Heart use. That starts before placement, before delivery. They have the opportunity, once you're matched, when a birth mom and an adoptive family are matched, they have the opportunity to join Hearts Connect and start that relationship right then and there. So the app, we can post pictures, updates. It's kind of like we explain it as a private Facebook group. They're added to a group together. It is private, it's moderated, so that we can kind of control that relationship, that environment, since it is a new relationship and you're building trust. So once you are matched, you're added to this Hearts Connect group. And then, yes, after placement, we strongly encourage the adoptive families to post fairly often. We go over a form called the Post-Placement Communication Agreement, where it is how often they should be posting. It's fairly often, especially in those first few months, since emotions are high, hormones are high, and they are going through this big emotional situation. And so even if the birth mom is not actively on Hearts Connect, we encourage adoptive families to continue posting so that when they are ready to see those pictures and updates, It's there on the website.
And being able to have the focus be on a gradual openness versus all of a sudden all at once. A gradual openness helps it be more of a healthy relationship and sustainable over time. And so I would say for the adoptive families to make sure not to overpromise anything, to be realistic with what's doable, especially when it comes to visits, because it is a lot, especially committing to once a year visits or whatever it might be. But if the focus is on building a relationship, then naturally, if visits do happen in the future, everybody can feel comfortable when that does happen. And so, yeah, those are the two things I would say, is just making sure not to overpromise with communication, be realistic, and then also recognize that you can have a gradual openness and to rely on the support that got you to that placement as far as attorney, agency, whatever the method was, to just kind of go with advice. Everybody's different in how post-placement is handled, but being able to be that constant support and follow through with what was said before and during placement, so that it doesn't just drop off on the birth mom side especially.
Yeah. Was there anything that you wanted to mention that we didn't cover in those questions?
I do. So just kind of to talk about the hospital plan, what that kind of looks like.
Yeah.
I think I skimmed over that. But in the hospital plan, we do go over, if she wants an epidural and who she wants in the labor and delivery with her, how much time she wants with the adoptive family and with baby. So we really have a pretty
immunization,
yeah,
names, all of the different things, so that it can be a conversation before the hospital stay even happens.
Pictures, if she wants pictures taken or not. And so we do have a pretty good conversation about how she wants things to go in the hospital, but she knows that any of that can change the day of.
The situation, I'm sure, can feel like you're out of control. So just to be able to have like those elements she can control and have a say in is very important.
And to be able to explore that beforehand too, because once baby is born and in the birth mom's hands, it's all those emotions and different things and different feelings may come, but being able to go through that hospital plan before, I think, helps at least process through the adoption as far as deciding adoption or parenting and everything that goes into that.
Yeah. And is it part of the role that you both have to, if a mom has, gone through with placing a child, do you help her find counseling resources if she needs those?
Yeah, we have excellent counselors with our agency. So multiple conversations. We bring up how we have counselors, reach out anytime. If they do feel like they need in-person counseling, like in their home state, we will cover the first couple sessions to kind of help deal with those emotions with adoption. But they know that our counselors are an option to talk to and reach out to.
All right. Well, we want to thank Kathy and Haley for being with us today and for sharing their insights on hospital stays for both birth families and for adoptive families, and how, again, adoption is unique. So each case is different, and each birth mother wants different things, and that we all just have to have that open mindset that things change and are ever evolving. So thank you, ladies. And we are going to close out in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for today. We thank you for Kathy and Haley and their insight that they were able to give to us and to our listeners about what hospital stays look like for both birth mom and family and for the adoptive families. And we just thank you for their wisdom and their hearts for adoption, for both sides of it. And we just pray that you would be with them as they continue their work, that you would be with the mothers that they are working with, the families they're working with, and the future babies that are to come. And in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. You can find us on any major podcast platform and on Instagram, Adoption Side by Side, to listen to more episodes and follow along in our personal adoption journeys as they change.